I have flown to Barcelona, Spain to play the most important tournament of my life. The Sunway Chess International, regrouping 242 chess players from over 40 different countries. At my current rating of 2079, this is a global test of my true level against top competition. Only 12 points away from my peak achieved last month, I seek to cross 2100 for the first time ever. Welcome to episode 1 of 10 of my Chess tournament on my way to mastering chess. This recap is sponsored by our friends over at ChessReps. If you're looking for a way to memorize your openings in a science-backed way, I highly recommend ChessReps' software. You can choose from a multitude of openings from their diverse catalog. You can also now create a chess course from your own PGN file and learn through the ChessReps software. Find the link in my description to try ChessReps for free for 7 days. Coming into this tournament, I have a live rating of 2079, and I'm playing against a 2551 Chinese grandmaster, Shangren Dai, who's 26 years old. Insane! Imagine the nerves coming on to board 4, first round of the tournament. I had just arrived in Spain a few days earlier, and I'm playing against this very strong grandmaster right next to Grandmaster Jules Moussard, who's the number 3 seed of the tournament and a classical chess legend. With only a few hours before the round to prepare, my opponent goes d4 and I play a move that I haven't played that often, one knight f6. And here my opponent goes c4, e6, and after knight c3 I get what I want, which is my preparation of bishop b4, the Nimzo Indian defense with the black pieces. And my opponent chooses a very classical and the most popular move variation, pawn to e3. And so here, I was still in book, obviously, I go up for a quick castles, bishop d3, and here I attack the center with d5. That's the thing with these hyper-modern openings, is that you give the center first and then you attack it. And so my opponent trades once, goes knight e2. He wants to kick my bishop with a3 so that once I take, he just takes with a knight. So this is not a good option for my bishop anymore. And here I confuse my preparation. Okay, it's not that crazy. I go bishop d6. First, I'm supposed to go rook e8, wait for this chase down, and then bishop d6. But knight b5 happens, attacking my bishop. And now we're off theoretical books. This is an off-the-record game, but yeah, I go bishop e7, queen c2, and my opponent puts a lot of pressure on my side very early on, threatening this win of a rook. So I have to defend here with knight a6, and here I'm threatening this fork of queen and bishop to win the bishop pair. So my opponent has to block this with a3, and now I go with c6, kicking this knight, and knight c7. So I'm trying to get my knight back into the game for a nice, hopeful future. My opponent goes for castles, and now we enter the middle game. The opening phase is complete, and now black has to find a plan. And if you want to challenge yourself, sure, pause the video and try to find a plan for me. It is quite hard, but apparently there is a very well-known plan in this structure, in this position, and I didn't know it. And instead, I took a plan which I heard from my friend Charlize in the car, who talked about this plan for the black pieces in these types of structures. And that plan is inspired by AlphaZero. So AlphaZero in a few games went like this: pawn g6, king g7, and then h5, h4, and with like a rook here on h8, something like this. So this is what I go for, g6, which is the correct move. And after the game, my now friend, Grandmaster Brewington Hardaway, goes on the broadcast of the tournament, and after this king g7, says, yeah, this is just lack of experience. I'll let you play the clip.
Okay, but I was a bit confused with
yes, king g7. Usually g6 is played in order to play knight e6, knight
and
e7.
then trade the bishops, yeah. Because, okay, the main idea in these positions is to trade this bishop for the light square bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's just lack of experience, I'm not sure.
And basically says, so knight e8, knight g7 is the right plan here to try to play bishop f5 and trade off white's good bishop, this light squared bishop, because it's the opposite color of this pawn structure. And so that's what black has to go for to try to equalize completely in this game. But king g7 is not too good, because let's say this bishop gets this long diagonal one day, my king is very vulnerable. And overall, it's just not the right plan of this position. So rook ad1, I go with my plan h5 and h4. And here my opponent blocks my pawn with h3, which is kind of what I wanted. Honestly, like what I really want is this h3, just like to penetrate into the enemy zone. But when my opponent plays h3, it leaves a huge hole on this g3 square for my knight to kind of pass through, or just fixing these pawns as my h-pawn is now very solidly placed, and I can maybe go with knight h5, knight g3. So I go knight h5 here, very happy, and here my opponent plays his plan. So the white plan of this is the Botvinnik idea, playing for this d4, in which he kind of was the first pioneer of this plan with the white pieces in this famous game against Capablanca in Avro 1938. You can check the game if you want so. So I went with bishop e6. I'm trying to solidly defend my pawn here. I do not want to take this pawn and open up this rook and give the white pieces this beautiful center here. So that would be a big nightmare. So I went with bishop e6 here, just playing solidly. And here my opponent plays queen c1 with a small threat. But honestly, I have to play rook h8, defending this, and my rook does not want to be on h8 because my rook's doing nothing here. Rook f2, I thought this was quite odd. It's very prophylactic. Like my opponent is seeing this, and with knight takes, pawn takes, and I would open up my rook here on the h-file. So he doesn't want that, so he escapes from this f1 square. Like very, very high prevention by my opponent. So okay, I continue with just developing my pieces. Somehow, I just haven't finished the development so far in this game. So knight f4, knight takes, bishop takes. And here I play bishop d6. I'm trying to just stop this bishop. And my opponent plays knight e2. So here it's very hard position. Like white always has this tension on this pawn here and is trying to thrust this e5, but has to time it at the right time. And it's overall a position that's very hard to navigate. And from here on, you'll see my time plummet. So I go knight e8, a bad move played in a lot of time spent. My knight is never good when it's employed passively in a chess position, and let alone a backwards knight move on the 8th rank, disconnecting my rook. So for simple reasons, this is a terrible move. But of course, for good reasons, I want to take back here with my knight and exert some pressure on this e4 square. So my opponent goes bishop e5, very good move. If I take, and white just has everything, opens up this file on my queen. So I go f6, putting the bishop back in its place, and now I go bishop e7. Now I want this knight d6 here to live strongly and apply some pressure here. And on f5, I maybe want this knight f5 and a nice outpost for my knight. So bishop back to h2. And I go with bishop f7 here. Basically, I'm trying to meet this with now knight c7, knight e6. It's a mess for the black pieces. And we get to this position a few moves later in which my opponent finally plays this e5 move. And he's thrusting e6 anytime. And I'm in big trouble because now knight e6 does not work, blocking all of this due to a tactic for the white pieces that I found on his turn here, which he did not play.
Maneuver. Yeah, and I think this was the key moment. Yeah, this knight e6 was played. In this position, there was a missed win here.
I should try
to find, yes. Unfortunately, I know it already, so...
Okay, I mean, this looks a bit suspicious, so I mean, I can take this maybe. It's an idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it?
Bishop takes g6 is what I saw during the game, which is completely crushing for white and is just a forced win after bishop takes knight, queen takes, and then pawn takes e6 check. And so this discovered check on my queen and on my king is like completely crushing. If I take back with the bishop here, there's queen takes queen and white will be up in exchange. And if I take back with the queen, well, there's bishop e5 with this nice skewer, and that's game over. My opponent missed this and played g4, which I was so happy about on extreme time pressure. I have 2 minutes on my clock. I take en passant and play f5, and now we get this blockade, and we reach a small edge for the black pieces. First time I'm better in the entire game after 32 moves. So my opponent starts to think here, and goes bishop, rook g2, king h7, and now knight takes, and goes queen f4, and now I go with rook h8. So I'm trying to just block my opponent's attacking plan of h4, h5, and just attacking my king with this laser bishop x-raying my king here. So my opponent plays bishop f2, which I was like, what? You have h5, h4 at your disposal so easily. What is he trying to do? And this is where the respect for my opponent is so strong. I'm seeing that my opponent wants to go with this sneaky bishop e3, queen h6. So I prepare against it. I play rook g8, and my opponent plays this almost instantly, and now I go rook g7. And here the black pieces are once again better because queen h6 is not good to king g8. The nice tuck, king g8 attacking this queen, and white has nothing here. So my opponent plays this weird king f2. I guess he's trying to double rooks on this g file, but it is far too slow. I evade with my king, king g8, and here black is an edge, like an advantage. Minus 0.58 is insane. So rook e g1, doubling the rooks, and now I go rook h5. I'm just trying to cover here and trying to play g5 if I can. This bishop is still hitting f5, so still not possible, but I decide to run with my king. Rook h4, queen back to g3. If I could, I would, but now it's time to start pressure on the other side of the board. c5, out of the ruins, and into space we go. c5, putting pressure on this d4 pawn, and look at all the material that is condensed on this king side versus this near empty, deserted queen side. For me, there's so much potential for these black pieces. And so my opponent plays f4, blocking the vision of my rook here and solidifying e5. And here it's very tough to seize the advantage here as the black pieces, I find. Do you take? Do you play queen d7, queen b5, which is what I did? Do you play queen c6 and then take? It's very interesting, but I think I'm better at this point in the game. So I go queen d7, my opponent goes king d2, and now I try to go for queen b5, but I decide against it. I feel like I have to block this e6 square first, and I go for bishop e6, which is not the best move. And here after king c1, I start thinking, and I go, what do I want here? Because my opponent is just trying to seek asylum on this queen side, and the king is going to be perfectly safe. So I go c takes, bishop back to d2, check, bishop d3, and now I'm like, what? Suddenly I have nothing. And after the game, I analyzed this with my grandmaster opponent, and we came to the conclusion that c4 here is a really nice practical try for the black pieces, just closing out this bishop. And he said to me, black has all the play in the world to push this b4 pawn, and with a massive attack on this weak king. So that's a very nice learning experience. But here after bishop c2, I thought, I maybe have to try to bring my pieces over to the queen side to attack this king, and I play king f7, which is not that good of a move because my opponent has king b1 here with rook c1, and now white will get this c file, but he plays bishop b4 instead. And after this long struggle, 49 moves into the game, I completely collapse. And it's because of a lack of respect for my opponent in my mind. You see, as I recovered this completely losing position, my opponent misses a tactic that I see. My opponent's crushing me for 30 moves and then completely blunders the advantage. I think that I'm superior to my opponent for some crazy dingus reason. And here I think that after bishop b4, my opponent was on tilt and is blundering a tactic, and I think that I'm winning with pawn to d3, a complete blunder. And my thought was that I thought that I just hallucinated that this was checkmate threat, like ignoring completely this rook on h2, which would make sense if it were the case, because on queen takes, I would have bishop takes, pawn takes, and rook takes f4, and that was my entire idea. So I'm deflecting the queen off of c4, off of f4 here. But the bishop's defended, and white has time to play bishop takes c7, attacking my rook, and I instantly resigned. Kind of a tough game, but I feel like I played so well despite not having the right plan, getting crushed, coming back up from +3, and so I emerge into the next round with a complete surprise in mind.